Okay, usually on this show, we try to pick activities that people would actually want to do. And obviously, most people don't want to get punched. The fact of the matter is, it might happen if you're hanging with the wrong crowd or you're at the wrong family reunion. Tonight on Going Deep, how to get punched. This is a how-to show about things you think you know how to do. Because simple things are more complex than they seem. I'm David Rees. Let's do this. One afternoon not long ago, I was walking home from work, and I stumbled upon a good old-fashioned New York City street fight. And I jumped in to try to break up the fight, and at one point, the huge guy on PCP looked at me like he was about to punch me, and I realized, oh, I have no idea how to get punched. You see, I'm lucky. In my life, I've never actually been punched. By the end of this episode, I want to get punched hard. By this man, Bernard Hopkins, a world champion boxer and one of the greatest middleweight fighters of all time. One thing I know about punches is they're made out of fists. It was time to answer the age-old question. What is a fist? I went to the University of Utah to meet Mike Morgan, a doctor with not one, but 2 black belts. He's also studying how the human hand evolved to make a fist. What is this?
This piece of equipment is designed to measure the amount of strain placed on the bones of the hand during a punch.
Mike's research involves dissecting cadaver arms to examine bone and muscle structure. So, fair warning, you're totally about to see that. Can I come around and look at the fist?
Sure.
Oh my God. That is really amazing. So the farther we pull this back, the stronger the punch.
Correct. So it's measuring how strong the hand is in different positions. Now, we don't always use the fist position because we have to have something to compare it to.
Do I just let it go?
Sure.
That's a serious punch. When I was a kid and my mom, this is very weird to think about given my mom, but she said if you ever throw a punch, don't put your thumb inside your fingers.
That's
Keep
correct.
it outside your fingers.
Your mom was a good fighter. She gave you sage advice. When we think about the proportions of the hand, we can provide strength and support when we make a fist, and we call that buttressing.
Okay.
Our first buttress happens when we flex the fingers towards the palm. Then you do a little further flexion of the fingers, and they curl up into the palm.
Next level buttress.
And then flex the thumb, oppose it, and adduct it, and that brings the fat pad of the thumb right around and provides a fully buttressed fist.
Give me a little cushion.
Incredible stability, exactly. With our previous research, we've shown that an open hand is 4 times less stable of a structure than a fist.
So you're telling me I can't slap someone as hard as I can punch them?
You can generate the same force. What does damage to a target is the pressures that we apply to it. The fist is about the 1/3 of the surface area of an open palm. So we have more force over a smaller surface area, giving us a higher pressure. The fist itself is actually a very robust, very strong structure to be delivering force.
So, fists are very effective at inflicting bodily damage, but where would they do the most damage? What I'm asking is, where should I not get punched? I asked Dr. Michael Schwartz, a ringside physician and a member of the Connecticut Boxing Hall of Fame, to show me all the places on my body where I should not get punched.
Let's start with the liver.
Vinny, bring me the liver. All right, so we have a liver here.
The rib cage only comes down to about here, and the liver actually extends kind of under it, so it's very accessible to a punch.
Yeah.
And when hit, just in the right way, all your arteries in your body dilate, and your blood pressure drops. Basically, you collapse to the ground.
But can you actually damage the liver itself? I just want to make sure that I can still enjoy a beer at the end of the day.
Oh, I'm sure you could.
Okay, great. So everybody just calm down about getting punched in the liver. So let's have the lungs. If I get punched in the lung, wouldn't my rib cage protect me?
Rib cage will protect you, but the ribs are made of bones, so you could easily break a rib.
Spleen. Thank you, Vinny. What on earth is a spleen?
It actually helps regulate blood, it stores blood, it helps with infection. If you rupture your spleen, it bleeds a lot.
Why is internal bleeding such a huge deal? The body's filled with blood anyway.
Blood is supposed to be in blood vessels, not outside blood vessels.
Oh, I see. That actually makes sense.
Why don't we talk about kidneys, which are kind of in the back here. It's actually prohibited to have a kidney shot in boxing or MMA.
Why?
Because if you get hit just in the right way, it could cause kidney failure, ultimately.
Are kidneys the worst place to get punched?
No.
You got me a little freaked out about the kidneys.
I think the liver still is the worst place. Long term, if you keep getting hit in the kidneys, it could lead to kidney damage. But again, God gave us 2 of them.
Whereas with our livers,
you got 1 of them.
So treat it with respect. So basically, my organs are a bunch of sitting ducks. Or if there's, whatever's even more fragile than a duck. I asked Michael if there's anything I could do to protect my precious organs.
By bringing the elbows in close, tucking the chin down, getting the fists in front of the face, there's not a lot of areas that you could hit.
This elbow's protecting the spleen.
Exactly.
And this elbow's protecting the liver.
And if you get really good, and I'm throwing a punch, move your shoulder backwards. Now the force would have dissipated, you're barely getting hit.
And you look like a goof. Before going to a rough part of town, wear your organ location t-shirt to remind yourself where not to get punched. If you have to get punched, bring along a qualified ringside physician. Coming up, I look at brain cells that grew out of a penis. It's on, mother. Okay, so Dr. Mike kind of proved to me that I should not get punched in my body. But what about getting punched in my face? I mean, that's what would have happened if you had punched me, I would imagine.
That is exactly what could have happened.
Are you serious?
If you get hit and the head moves, eventually the neck's going to stop that head from moving. The brain will continue to move and bang into the actual bony part of the skull. By shutting off consciousness, now the brain has an opportunity to repair itself.
The brain is like, shut down systems.
Shut down systems. Next thing you know is you're on the ground.
As my identical twin demonstrated, it's probably not a great idea to get punched in the head. Assuming that dummy had a brain, what would be going on inside of it right now? That question brought me to the Department of Biomedical Engineering at Tufts University. This is Disha Sood. She's a PhD candidate in a lab that makes synthetic brain tissue. Although the brain she's holding is real. She's got the good stuff.
The cortex is the biggest part of the brain, which we work on making in vitro.
I'm sorry, are you growing brains in jars?
Not jars, dishes, but yeah.
The tissue that Disha and her colleagues grow in their magical dishes is made of silk, collagen, and neurons harvested from rat embryos. And it mirrors real brain tissue so well, researchers have started using it to study the effects of traumatic brain injury.
It represents brain in to certain extent, but obviously it's not a thinking brain at this point.
Okay.
We can see the neurons growing, so we can differentiate the white matter, which is a bunch of axons growing together, and the gray matter, which is a lot of the cell bodies.
What you're looking at right now are brain cells that grew out of stem cells that were actually harvested from someone's foreskin. You are looking at a brain that grew out of a guy's penis. Deal with it. The long stringy things are axons or nerve fiber. They connect various regions of the brain and help them communicate with each other. The darker clusters are gray matter. That's where stuff like thinking and decision-making happens, like, you know, brain stuff.
Inside the skull, there's also fluid called cerebrospinal fluid. The fluid protects the brain, but obviously it can do only so much, so if the impact is too much...
Your brain sloshes through the fluid and hits the inside of your skull.
Yeah.
Is that what a concussion is?
Yeah.
Let's punch these brain cells.
Okay, so basically, we are going to use these tubings.
Are we just going to drop a weight down onto this thing, and that's going to be the concussion?
Yeah. If a person is actually hit, we see the release of a chemical called glutamate, and it can actually damage more neurons. The amount of food coloring released after the impact, that's gonna be comparable to the glutamate release.
We should emphasize, this is our version of a real experiment.
Yes.
A TV-friendly, visually dynamic experiment.
Yes.
Basically, it's about to look like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre up in here. Ready? Here we go.
Yeah, you can just leave it. Yep. So that's our light pink release.
Now I want to know what the official damage is.
Stem cells would die. Whenever a cell dies, it releases certain things which signals the cells surrounding it also to die. So it's basically going to be a cascade. A lot of the cells would be dying in that one region, forming a scar there.
It doesn't look that dramatic. If this was your actual brain, that would be bad news.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do this right now.
Wait, why?
If our brain wasn't working.
You're talking about Dancing the Robot?
No, even coordination of our two hands.
We're going to put music over that, and it's going to be so awesome. Human brains totally suck at absorbing blows, but here's what's interesting. There are plenty of animals that can bang their head all day and they're totally fine. Like woodpeckers. What's up with woodpeckers? Jeremy Kurtzman knows. He's the curator of ornithology at the New York State Museum in Albany.
If you watch slow motion videos of woodpeckers pecking, you can see that they actually close their eyes at the moment of impact, and they do that in part because they don't want their eyes to fly out of their head.
Was that a joke?
No, that's the truth.
So what do woodpeckers have that I don't have? In terms of being able to sustain repeated impact to the skull.
Right. Woodpeckers have a very tight connection between the skull and the brain, less cerebrospinal fluid, and also very tough dura, the layers of tissue that that surround the brain, all that stuff is really tightly packed and doesn't allow a lot of jiggling. So what I have now is this pileated woodpecker and American crow, and I've got skulls that have been cut in half so that you can see the structure of the bone. You're gonna look through here.
I'm seeing major differences.
Yeah, what do you see?
The crow skull, where it meets the beak, there's like all this webbing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
In the woodpecker, it looks denser. And then the other
But
thing...
you're right about the density of the bone and all those little connections. And they've made their bones more dense, especially in the places where all the force is directed. So they're not really building shock absorbers as much as they are force deflectors and just being able to take it. They're just tough.
You're telling me I have to be as tough as a woodpecker if I want to get punched in the face?
Well, the woodpeckers are generating upwards of 1,000 Gs of force, and it goes like this. It goes away from the brain. It goes down the beak and towards and not up here.
I'd rather break my jaw than break my brain. My jaw doesn't
true.
contain my hopes and dreams and memories.
Exactly right.
And limericks. Bad, bad, bad. Deflect the force of impact away from your brain. Good, good, good. When we come back, singer-songwriter Amy Mann tries to beat me up in an alley.
You look terrified.
So natural selection has turned woodpeckers into super tough force-deflecting headbangers. But I don't believe in natural selection. What else do you got? Is there anything I can take away from this in terms of things I could actually do to my body that would help me avoid concussions?
You'd have to modify the coverings of your brain.
Also, wear a neck brace.
Yes.
And also wear a helmet.
Maybe some swim goggles to prevent the eyeballs from flying out.
Practical solutions to everyday problems. Ornithology. At this point, I was feeling like I was just about ready to get punched, but then I started to worry. Even wearing protective equipment, getting punched still might hurt. Dr. Lauren Atlas is principal investigator at the NIH's research section on pain. When I do this, where is the pain? Is the pain there or is the pain there?
In your brain.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how sick is that?
An 8.
Lauren is a psychologist who uses neuroscience techniques to figure out how our expectations affect how we perceive pain. How can I get pain to not hurt?
Are you allowed to take drugs?
If I was about to get punched repeatedly, what drug would you recommend I take?
You would need an anesthetic. But one thing that's pretty cool is that those drugs actually work differently if you know you're getting them from if you don't know you're getting them. So that sort of points at your body has its own mechanisms to help relieve pain.
And that thinking-based difference can actually influence my experience of the physical pain?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that?
I'm pretty sure. We published studies on it.
What journal did you publish it in?
Journal of Neuroscience.
Never heard of it. You might want to try Us Weekly if you're trying to get my attention. To prove expectations influence how much pain you feel, Lauren hooked me up to a machine that tracked my vital signs as it administered a series of burning sensations to my arm. Is it gonna hurt?
Hopefully. We need it to hurt in order for us to study what we're interested in.
Lauren asked me to rate how painful each burn was on a scale from 1 to 8. She also told me the burning would increase following a cowbell. Whoa. And decrease after a cymbal crash. Truth was, she lied. Sometimes they were the exact same temperature.
When you heard the cowbell, you got nervous and you paid more attention, right?
Right.
But when you heard the cymbal, you kind of relaxed and you're like, this one isn't gonna hurt me.
Yeah, right.
So what we end up seeing is that if the same temperature was preceded by the cowbell or the gong, you gave it different rating.
So even though I tried to be a big tough guy and not let anything hurt me, I still was subject to those cues.
Yeah.
So a situation where you're gonna get punched, is it better to go in anticipating and fearing the punch? Or is it better to go in blasé and convince yourself it's not gonna hurt?
I would say if there were a way to truly believe that it's not gonna hurt, that's probably gonna be the best. Have you been punched before?
Not really.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. According to Lauren, the anticipation of pain makes pain more painful. So I came up with a hypothesis. If I got to know the types of punches Bernard Hopkins might throw at me, maybe that would make them less painful. Maybe? To do that, I hung out in a photogenic alley with the biggest boxing fan I know, Amy Mann, a certified rock star who has written many songs about boxers and does a little boxing herself. So when you lace up in these boxing gloves, do you get excited?
It's like putting a sled dog in a harness. He wants to start pulling.
That was pretty tough. Amy trained with Freddie Roach, a legendary boxing coach who's worked with Mike Tyson, Manny Pacquiao, and a bunch of other boxers I'm not tough enough to know about. What do you like more, punching or getting punched?
Punching.
Okay.
Now, to be clear, I don't like hurting people, but punching people is a different thing.
The thing I really want to talk to you about is the different kinds of punches. It's like this guy's like, I'm going to see you later today, and when I see you, I'm going to punch you.
So probably that guy would punch you with a straight right.
Which is?
So,
Oh.
like that.
And you're always just trying to send that straight into the person's body?
I mean, I think the face is probably anybody's target.
What's the next kind of punch?
So in boxing, the idea of the jab is it kind of, you know, it comes right in your eyes, it distracts you, you can't really see, and you follow it up with a right.
So the jab is really actually like a little scout that you're sending out.
Yeah.
Like Moon Patrol.
That's right.
Right?
All right, so then we have the hook. Now, you can also follow up with your elbow.
Are you allowed to do that in real boxing?
No, you're absolutely not.
What would be the most useful part of their body to watch?
The shoulder is probably the thing that moves the first.
Right, but what if I watch their eyes? Because
They'll
surely...
they'll be dead like fish, because they're killers.
Pay attention to the dominant shoulder of the person you think is about to punch you. And what life lessons would you say that you've learned from boxing?
For me, there was something very helpful about having the worst happen, which is getting punched in the face, because nobody wants it.
Right.
And going like, I could take that.
I did it. I got punched in the face.
Yeah. You know, I think boxing for me is all about learning how to keep your composure, even though you know you're probably going to get hit.
That is a good life lesson. The moment we've been waiting for is almost here. I'm about to get punched by a former world champion. Pay-per-view, $99 per second. That would be so much money. I know that's true. Welcome back to Going Deep. We are officially out of commercial breaks, which means one thing. It's David Rees getting punch time.
And you're going to get punched.
Well...
Oh, you're going to get punched.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Bernard Hopkins. Bernard's held the title of undisputed middleweight champion of the world a record number of times. He's won 55 fights, 32 by knockout. I asked him if he had any last-minute advice.
You always look at a guy, even when you greet him, you look at him this way.
Right.
Right? I learned that from Sun Tzu. You have to look at your opponent.
The Art of War.
The Art of War.
Right.
One of my favorite books. When you look down and you take your eye off the target,
right.
I'm the magic man, I'm gone. Because you're not seeing me.
You're all about confronting obstacles head-on with full awareness of what's going on.
Absolutely.
Is it always better to keep your body loose to take a punch or to tense up your muscles?
Loose.
Really?
You don't want to get your muscles hit because you don't have any. So you let them hit the jello. I'm not saying you're not going to feel it, but you're going to be able to absorb it and take it better.
So I just say, here comes a little massage unit.
Swedish massage.
Deep tissue.
Maybe the rocks every now and then.
Yeah, well, the hot rocks? I don't know. You do that?
Sometimes.
All right. At last, my training was at an end. And I, David Rees, being of so-so mind and body, was ready to receive a punch and all the physical and psychological damage entailed thereby. Identify the type and direction of the punch by paying attention to the dominant shoulder of your opponent. Hook. Protect your organs, face, and brain with the correct stance. Reposition your body relative to the punch vector so the fist lands on the natural padding of your shoulder, thigh, or butt. You nailed it, bro. Do everything possible to prevent your brain from being impacted. Don't tense up while being punched! Stay loose to soften the blow. To reduce panic and anxiety, occupy your mind with a short-term project or goal while being punched. Let's be very clear about what's about to happen. Let's be very, very clear about what I'm asking you to do. I would like to know where you're going to punch me before you punch me.
First of all, where do you like to be punched at?
Well, I guess on my arm or my butt. Where would you like to punch me?
In the face.
I guess you can punch me in the face, but so,
Boy, I'm waiting to nail your smart ass in a minute, watch.
I know. Bernard was excited to punch me, but we agreed we should be responsible for all the kids watching and don our safety equipment. If it wasn't for you kids, we would have gone at it raw. Okay, so mouth guard. Where's my mouthpiece?
It's in the van. We're bringing it up.
Okay. All right, while we're waiting, do you want to hit me here? This is the arm that's taken the most beating over the course of this season. No?
So I want to rest that.
All right.
I want to rest that. That's a nice camera there.
Oh! That was
amazing. That was a good experience.
That was a sucker punch.
Exactly.
Kind of want to give you a big hug right now because that was perfect.
Yes.
But also, kind of don't want to hug you right now. Getting sucker punched is the best, because I didn't have time to anticipate it and freak out and tense up. I just had to live with it.
See? He's rubbernecking.
And once I started living with it, I said, what else do you have, Bernard? Come at me.
And I learned how to take good shots here like this.
Oh! Okay.
What's wrong?
You knocked the wind out of me a little.
Are you serious?
So, having gotten punched, would I recommend it? Hell no. Never, ever get punched. But if you do get punched, at least make sure the guy delivers an inspirational speech afterwards. Speak to the camera. Just.
What do they tell people in a time of crisis? You hear, stay calm. It's the same thing in the art of war. Stay calm.
And stay nerdy.
Always nerdy at the end.